The Handmaid's Tale Season 5 Episode 3 Ending Explained. Following on from the previous episode where we saw that June's daughter Hannah was in Gilead and was alongside Serena at Fred's funeral, the panic and unrest amongst her and Luke was set to reach an all-time high. With Esther and Janine's fate also unknown, it left a lot for this episode to pick up from. So with that, I thought I'd recap, break down, and explain all that there was to take away from this week's episode. So let's get into it. Here is The Handmaid's Tale Season 5 Episode 3 Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The episode kicked off with us seeing June and Luke's reaction following the funeral that was broadcast and the revelation that Hannah was in Gilead and was close to Serena. It came to light that it was the main reason as to why Serena wanted it to be a global event, because she wanted to increase the chances of June seeing it, and to show that she had June's daughter and there was nothing she could do about it. Serena had all plans and intentions on staying in Gilead. However, that didn't seem to go to plan, so the global funeral could turn out to backfire on her. Hannah was seen wearing a purple dress in the section at the end of episode 2, and we saw that it was playing on Hannah's mind as to what that colour meant, and in fact the purple colour meant that she's ready. Ready in the sense that she's going to be going off to wife school to learn how to be a wife to a commander. This led me to think about all of the different options that are out there. And with this episode reminding us of the fact that Commander Lawrence doesn't have a wife, and without a wife it's going to be a struggle for him to be viewed as powerful, I wonder if the plan is for him to end up wedding Hannah when she comes of age. This would probably be one of the better situations for her due to how we saw June in previous seasons, where he has no interest. After this, we saw June go to the border where there was a group of individuals who had escaped Gilead but were set on rescuing people, and they were also resourceful. June wanted to reach out to Nick so that he could inform her of the status of her daughter and if she would be safe, and these were the only people that would be able to make it happen. Inside Gilead at this point, we had Serena meeting with the commanders where they shared their condolences of Fred's death, and we saw Commander Mackenzie, who was an individual who came across as paranoid of plotting from within, which he rightfully should be, and also coming across as an individual who wanted to express the power that he held. He was an extremely calm person, but the stiffness of his body was something that showed that he was going to explode eventually, and it seemed as though he had a lot of pent-up anger. We saw this when he approached Nick when he was talking to Mark, and implied that he thought that he was up to no good, so I think he's going to be keeping a close eye on Nick moving forward, which could make things more difficult for Nick to be able to get people out to safety and also for him to potentially see his daughter. Nick brought his wife Rose with him to the meeting, and it was the first time that we've really seen them together in the season so far. You can sense that he's married out of duty rather than happiness, as he just doesn't seem as though he's into her that much. That, and also the fact that when he was on the phone with June during the episode, he was having flashbacks of when they were together, and it seemed as though there was actual emotion that was being emitted after the thoughts, more so than when he was actually with Rose. The burning question for Serena in this episode was, what does her future hold? She wanted to stay put in Gilead as it was the safest place for her due to all of the death and devastation that her and her husband caused on the individuals that had managed to escape. However, the High Commanders had different thoughts. They essentially wanted to send Serena back to Canada and essentially act as a global ambassador, representing Gilead from afar. However, you could sense the fear that was in her eyes when they said that she had to do this. As although it's unsafe for an unmarried woman in Gilead, being around all of the victims that you've caused first-hand damage to, and also June, who she taunted on global television, and knowing full well of what she's capable of doing to somebody, it was enough to make her petrified. So much so that right at the end of the episode, we saw that June had approached the car that Serena was in after flying back to Canada, and warned her to stay away from her daughter, showing that she's able to reach Serena even with all of the protection around her. Serena has become a fearful individual, and it seems that outside of Gilead she's just a mere shell of the person that she is when she's inside. The strength, anger, and confident persona drops the moment that she steps across the border, and it's interesting to see the character change that much. Upon Serena's arrival into Canada, we also saw that she had a growing group of supporters, showing that the ways and teachings of Gilead are spreading across the border, which could prove to be dangerous. The survivors and supporters could have conflict on the side of the border where Gilead's teachings are not favoured. Outside of Serena and June's arc, we also had the repercussions of Esther poisoning the chocolate, and both her and Janine ending up lying on the floor. We saw that they were both still alive, however they were in a critical condition. I thought this scene spoke a lot about Aunt Lydia and the care that she had for Janine, but also the fact that she believed that this was all punishment for the way that she treated the handmaids. She expressed her anger towards Esther, but you saw the genuine upset that she felt towards Janine as she'd grown to believe that she was a talented individual in recent times. We witnessed Aunt Lydia ask Mrs. Putnam to sit at her bedside with her daughter, which Janine carried and then gave birth to for her. This was seen as a last-ditch attempt to try and get her to wake up, and we saw that following this occurring, she actually did. She didn't look that well and was now in a wheelchair, and you saw the look of relief on Aunt Lydia's face. We still don't know the fate of Esther, but even if she were to survive, I can't imagine that she'd be around for long after that, as I imagine an extreme form of punishment could be coming her way. There was an intimate moment between both Serena and Mark, which I think could potentially lead to some kind of relationship developing between the pair. They're spending a lot of time together, and with it seeming as though marriage and relationships were a relatively key focus in this episode, with Nick thinking back to when he was with June, and Commander Lawrence feeling the pressure to get married, it was interesting for this moment to happen in this episode. I thought episode 3 was a good one. It was relatively slow when compared to the first two, but I feel as though the season now has its foundations laid and the divide is clear to see that's there across the border and also from within inside Gilead. I think Commander Mackenzie looks as though he could be what would be defined as one of the main villains for the duration of the season, as his suspicions are raised and it seems as though he can't trust Nick. I'm intrigued to see what's also going to happen between Esther and Janine, as Janine took Esther under her wing and essentially betrayed her by trying to kill her. So I do wonder how that will impact the dynamic of the pair, and if Esther will be punished in some way. June is looking fired up more than ever as she wants to get her daughter back, proving that even though when she's out of Gilead and the hold in her mind isn't there, there's always something that's pulling her back to the place where she experienced the worst amount of pain and suffering in her life, where she was determined to get away. A June versus Serena face-off is imminent, and I for one can't wait to see it happen. I'm intrigued to see where the show's going to go next. So, there you have it. The Handmaid's Tale Season 5 Episode 3 Ending Explained. If you want to see more videos on The Handmaid's Tale such as endings explained, theories and predictions, and character breakdowns, then click on the I button, or alternatively you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you'd like to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review, then head over to my Twitter, @brainpilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. What did you think of episode 3? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.